Welcome, friends. And as we have this special program, whole nation wants to grow on budget. Joining me, Mr. Amitabh Kant, Sherpa of G20, Sherpa of the Prime Minister for G20. In fact, a very good afternoon to you, sir. And your first thoughts on the manner in which this budget is going to rev up the consumption economy.
So I think it's a path-breaking budget. No budget has done so much for enhancing consumption. No budget has done so much for India's middle class ever. And I think what the radical restructuring of income tax will do is to lead to increased consumption, which would give a huge fillip to demand, which in turn will lead to enhanced production, which in turn will give a stimulus to growth, and growth will lead to greater jobs. I'm particularly delighted that this has been done by the finance minister in a highly fiscally prudent and responsible manner, because the fiscal deficit, which was to be 4.9%, is at 4.8% and will go down to 4.4%. And therefore, the macroeconomic stability of India will be kept intact and it will not lead to inflation. Secondly, my view is that this budget focuses on a range of labor-intensive sectors, from tourism to toys to leather to textile to footwear. And therefore, this is a budget which will drive growth, but will also enhance employment. And thirdly, I'm a great believer that jobs are created by young companies, by MSMEs and startups. This budget does two remarkable things. It brings in a credit guarantee scheme for MSMEs, and it provides the replenishment of 10,000 crores for the startup movement and another 20,000 crores for innovation, out of which they've said that there will be a further fund of funds for the deep tech startups. Now, that is like risk sharing with venture capital funds, and it will lead to a huge multiplier impact in India's economy. And so to my mind, overall, this budget will be a driver of very major growth. It should lead to consumption in a very big way. It will fuel consumption economy. But it will also lead to growth, and it will also lead to jobs, which is really the aim of this vision of the Prime Minister, that we should move to be a Viksit Bharat by 2047. From $4 trillion to $30 trillion is a very challenging task. And this required a budget which was very vibrant, dynamic, and had a lot of focus on consumption, which has now been done in this budget. So I would really like to place on record my great appreciation for the Finance Minister, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, for a very bold and dynamic and a truly dynamic budget.
Sir, just two follow-up questions. One, with the sectors that you mentioned, including toys, leather, construction, textile, you think that the budget addresses the China question, the elephant in the room, so to say, when it comes to manufacturing in job-oriented sectors? And also, do you also think that whatever the government could do has been done now? Now the onus is on private sector to pick up the tab and bring in the investment that has been missing?
So two things. One is that, I did not talk about the clean tech mission, which to my mind is very important, because we do a lot of import of solar components, electric vehicle components, battery components, etc. from the countries that you mentioned. And there is a huge imbalance in trade. And therefore, in the next 4 to 5 years, we should make ourselves Atmanirbhar and drive manufacturing in all these areas and become a champion of clean tech manufacturing, much like what we are doing through PLI for mobile telephony. But we need to really become a huge manufacturer of solar power, all the electric vehicle components of batteries and electrolyzers. This is very, very critical to my mind. Now, have to get the size and scale of manufacturing in many areas of textiles, toys, etc. We need to become large global manufacturers. That's really important because the cost of manufacturing must come down in India. And this requires us to become very cost effective, bring in cost competitiveness in our economy. And this would mean three things to my mind. One is that the cost of energy is still high, for which some announcement has been made, but the states, discoms, have to become very, very efficient. Secondly, the cost of logistics, on which a lot of work is going on, has to fall sharply. And thirdly, state governments must scrap all rules, regulation, procedures. We must encourage free enterprise in India in a big way. As long as there is regulatory cholesterol at the state level, the central government has done a lot. But at the state level, if there is regulatory cholesterol, it will impact. Now, India can grow only with the private sector. The government can create the conditions for growth. It can be a facilitator. But the private sector must invest. What the finance minister has done is everything possible in her realm. What is possible for the government of India to do has been done. Now it's for the private sector to invest, for the state governments to make themselves easy and simple. And really now the thrust should be on the private sector to drive both manufacturing and distribution and supplies in a very, very big way to take full advantage of this very vibrant budget which has been brought out by the finance minister.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kant, for joining us and sharing your thoughts. So hopefully some of the ideas that you spoke of would be picked up by the private sector. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thank you so much.